Yo, what's up everyone? Kyrios here, and today I want to go over Silverwolf, and if you should pull her, we're gonna go over everything from her skills to the build that you want to do. I even built a calculator for how much effective hit rate you need, to the team compositions that you need to do. And is she going to be meta? Let me tell you right now, she probably is going to be meta. I just don't think she will be right now. So let's go ahead and go through everything. If you guys can, hit that like and subscribe. Let's get started. All right, let's quickly go over her kit. Silverwolf has got one of the best kits out there, and she can fix a lot of your teams. Now, she does kind of need to be on the mono comp, but we'll cover that in a little bit. But she's able to do a ton of different debuffing. From her skill that's able to add a weakness from one of your ally types on field to the enemy, and adds additional damage resistance down of that weakness type for 2 turns. This is absolutely amazing when trying to do even more damage or trying to bring your elite DPS that isn't weak to, say, thunder, or isn't weak to fire, or isn't weak to quantum, where you could actually put that element on the target to do a ton more damage. Next up, we have her ultimate, where she calls down the thunder. Essentially, she has a base chance to decrease the target's enemy defense by upwards of 50% for 3 turns, and it does an additional amount of quantum damage. 50% is huge. Now, this is single target, it is an AoE, so there are times that you would probably bring like someone like Pella instead to be able to do AoE defense breaking if you have a lot of AoE, but the single target 50% is absolutely cracked. And that finally brings us to her talent, which is kind of cool as well. Whenever Silverwolf attacks, she has a base chance to apply a bug. Now, that bug can reduce the amount of attack that the enemy can do, further reduce defense by another like 10%, and reduce speed by upwards of 8% as well. Now, the implanting of the bug is random, and it does last 3 turns. So I think there's a chance that you can put the same bug over and over again on the target. So we'll have to see how that works in in practicality when we actually get her. But this is really cool. So she's able to do a ton of debuffs across the board, from her skill to her ultimate to her talent. All right, that brings us to gear, and then we need to talk about like effective hit rate and a few others. Let's talk about the gear sets that she would be really good with. Now, obviously the first one would be Genius of the Brilliant Stars, increases quantum damage, further reduces defense of that target. This is great. She's gonna be mainly auto attacking a lot with her Q ability, because you don't have to skill every single turn. And then when she does her ultimate, she'll be able to do even more damage. Now, if you don't want to farm that set because you've been farming a lot of other sets, she's actually going to be okay on both the Musketeer set. This is actually good because you kind of want to build her in the speed anyways, and she's going to be doing a lot of basic attack damage because you shouldn't be spamming your skill every single turn. You'll be spamming your ultimate as much as possible, but you'll be moving as quick as possible while hitting Q, where you only need to do your skill when you need to reapply a debuff, assuming you can land that debuff. And once again, mono team, right? Anyways, the last set I would build on her would be Thief of the Shooting Meteor. Now, I don't particularly like this one, but the only reason I like this is because it gives you a little bit of energy back, and her whole kit is built around getting energy. And she has other ways to get energy from some of her Lightcones that we're going to talk about here in a second. So anytime that you stack a whole bunch of energy so you can ult as much as possible, kind of cool, but I'm not the biggest fan of break effect on her. And the pivotal stats for her, I'm going to list her on screen right now, are going to be effective hit rate until you hit essentially a good balance of being able to land debuffs, speed, attack, crit. These are the buffs that we're going to be trying to go after. And then finally, for her 2-piece bonus, you're going to be looking at that Pan-Galactic Commercial Enterprise. Increases the wearer's effective hit rate by 10% and increases their attack, assuming that the effective hit rate is high enough. You get a maximum of what that effective hit rate is. And since we're going to be building into effective hit rate anyways, this is going to give her a nice DPS boost in damage. So for the boots, we're looking for speed. For the chest piece, we're looking for effective hit rate. For the gloves and the helmet, you're just looking for those good substats, so make sure you try and find some good substats there. For the middle 2 pieces, now these aren't the right sets, but what you are looking for is quantum boost damage with the right substats, and you're looking for energy recharge rate. Now, you don't have to do energy recharge rate technically, depending on how much energy you're already getting from your Lightcone and stuff like that. So you can throw on their attack percentage in order to get some better synergy to do a little bit more damage. So you have to look and see how much energy you're getting from the Lightcones and the traces that you already have. All right, that brings us to the mother of all stats, effective hit rate. And effective hit rate and debuffs and everything in this game is super convoluted. So I kind of want to cover that in complete detail right now. Now, I did make a spreadsheet calculator for you guys. You can use this as much as you want, and it's going to help you curate how much effective hit rate you honestly need. So there's a couple of things we need to talk about. There's actually two different formulas. There's actually only one formula, but you kind of have to do two different formulas because sometimes enemies are not debuff resistant. So the way that you land debuffs or land hits or anything like that is the base times 1 plus your effective hit rate times 1 minus damage resistance. So every enemy in the game has different damage resistances. So when you're going up against that enemy, it might have a 40% resistance to you, or it might have a 20% resistance to you, or it might have no resistance to you. So it's really hard to figure that out. So you kind of just have to know that going into it. And then it has 1 times 1 minus debuff resistance. So every enemy in the game also has a debuff resistance. And you can see on this chart here that every enemy, or a lot of enemies are listed, especially like 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 and stuff like that, where like 𝙀𝙀𝙔 is 100% resistance to freeze, where you cannot freeze her, or 100% resistant to quantum, right? The quantum debuff here. So you have to take that into account that some enemies are you're just not going to be able to land debuffs at all, no matter how much effective hit rate you have. So you have bleed, burn, freeze, shock, wind shear, the quantum dot, I forget what that's called. You have imprisonment, and then you have control. Now control is like taunting and a few other ones as well, and that one's a little bit hard to calculate. But typically for Silverwolf, you're not going to have any of these, so you're just going to put 0 into this board here because her debuff does not incorporate most of these unless it incorporates here in the control. We just don't have that data yet, but you can always come back to the spreadsheet and say, hey, if an enemy is 50 debuff resistance and control, you can put that in there and it'll work out all your damage there. So let me go ahead and just show you how this works. So we know that Silverwolf has a base chance to land her bugs at 80%. I'm rounding 78% at 80%. To land her weakness on her skill is about 90% to 100. And then to land her ultimate debuff, it's around 107 to 110%. So what you always want to do is take the bottom common denominator on trying to land those bugs. So if I was to add into my base chance here, right? Say I'm going to untick all of these resistances. Say I had a base chance of that that 80%, right? Now you can see here that we have about an 80% chance to hit, because it's just the raw base chance with no resistances across the board. And this is how much effective hit rate you would need in order to get to 100%. You would need to put in 25 here in your effective hit rate. Now you're at 100%. Now, typically this is just not going to be the case because most enemies are resistant to things. So if I was to start tagging 20% across the board here to all elements that is resistant to, you're going to see that you're going to need more effective hit rate in order to make those hits actually happen. So now we're going to have to go up to something around like 51 effective hit rate. And effectively, you're taking this from your gear, your traces, add it all up, and add what you have in effective hit rate. So let's do about 55 here. So we still need about another 1 effective hit rate, but at 55 effective hit rate, we have about a 99% chance to hit. But this is just not the way that bosses work in the game. So typically what's going to happen is that you're going to have some at minor and some not at minor and some not at all, right? So for example, I'm going to put fire as major resistant. We're going to put wind or lightning as major resistant, and we'll put quantum, and we'll leave ice as no resistance, right? So you can see here for ice, our chance to hit is pretty high, and our effective hit rate that we need is actually -30. We're actually over hit cap. But for all these other ones like fire and quantum, we need more effective hit rate. And effectively, you're trying to hit that target where you can guarantee that you're going to hit almost every single time. So we're trying to go after those bugs, like I said, but if you're just trying to go after skill, right, you could turn that to 90 and it gets a lot easier to build across. So it depends on what you're trying to do. I'm trying to land every debuff out there under the sun, right? So now I'm going to add, let's say 108. Let's see what it gets us to. And that gets us almost right on par, right? So you can see this fire, the effective hit rate we need is about 0.3, right? So we could probably bump this up to like 109. And there we go. We're at 100% effective hit rate. So this is really cool for landing debuffs across the board. Now, what's really going to burst your bubble a little bit here is that if her bugs and stuff end up being control over here, is that if I was to put like 50% resistance into control, you could see that that number drops down to about 50. So even though you have 109 effective hit rate, that boss might just be innately resistant to bugs, defense down, and a bunch of other things. So it's really hard to tell what's going to be resistant and what's not going to be resistant here. And we don't know what category she kind of falls in as of right now. So as we find out those details, you can always come back here and put in those numbers. And then I have a nice fancy chart on how much you need, right? Maybe you're over hit cap, maybe you're not over hit cap, right? Once again, if I put this down to 50, right, you'll see those red bars go up saying you need about 50 something percent because you only have about 50 something percent chance to hit. So hopefully this helped you out right there. Let's go ahead and cover her light cones. All right, I'm going to flash the light cone up on screen, but obviously her best light cone is her signature light cone. It's going to give you some effective hit rate at base level, signature 1. I'm not really going to cover signature 5 because that's whale territory. And if you're going to whale, you're going to whale anyways, right? Effective hit rate plus 24%. Increases crit rate by 12% if there's 3 or more debuffs. I'm not too thrilled about that part, but that's okay. Like, it's an additional bonus. But really, what's the nice thing about this besides the effective hit rate is the Aether code received gives you 12% increased damage for 1 turn on that target. So this also falls into a debuff category, so you do have to be able to land this. But her light cone is absolutely amazing. But I don't think her light cone is actually needed. So if you were to go to the next light cone that you do get for free, it's going to be in an event, it's going to be before the tutorial mission. Increases a wearer's effective hit rate by 20%, and when the wearer attacks defense reduced enemies, regenerate 4 energy. This is especially good if you can get her speed up to like 150, 160, and have her take a whole bunch of turns against that defense reduced target. This is a great light cone for her, and I'm hoping that we can get multiple copies of it where you can get it up to 40% and 8 energy. This is the light cone that I'm probably going to run if I was to pull Silverwolf. Now, if you're going through some of the other light cones, you do have Welt's light cone, which is really good as well. Increases damage to debuff targets. And it when the wearer uses their skill, the effective hit rate for the attack increases by 20% and attack by 20%. Good. This is going to let you do some extra damage, but not 100% needed. You don't need to do Welt's, but if you're sitting on it, it could be one that you use as of right now. And then finally, the other one I like is Eyes of the Prey, which is the one with shampoo on it. Increases effective hit rate of its wearer by 20%. It increases dot by 24%. Now, the problem is that you're not really dotting anything unless you're shield breaking. So once again, I would only do this if you have nothing better to put on it. And there's probably still some other light codes that might be a little bit better, but once again, take it with a grain of salt. We're really just looking at it for the effective hit rate if you've been able to max it out. All right, this video is already very long. I'm trying to speed through as much as possible, but the last thing we need to talk about is team build. And Silverwolf, unfortunately, really only works with mono comps. So the problem is that if you take someone like Silverwolf, you put Blade, you put, I don't know, 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿, and you put 𝙀𝙀𝙋𝘼𝑉𝑖𝑘𝑜. Once again, this is probably one of the worst teams I've ever built right here. But you can't go into a fight with 4 different elements, because if you're trying to get that fire debuff, you only have a 25% chance that she's able to put that fire debuff up there. So the problem is that Silverwolf, from the data that we know, also takes into account her own element, not just the allies' elements. So it's only a 25% chance per character. So what do you have to do? Like, honestly, the best team you could possibly do is the Quantum team, but we can't build a Quantum team right now. And for example, one of them would be I cannot find her, would be 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝑉𝑖𝑘𝑜, which would be Fu. And then there is a Quantum 4-star healer that we don't have right now, and that's what would be in the support spot. This would be an absolute crack team, but that's 1, 2, 3, 5 stars that you already need to make this team. So where does she work right now? There's 2 teams she specifically works on as of right this second. One of them being the Lightning team, that you could do something like Ting-Yun plus Bailu plus Jing-Yun, right? You could do that. Or if you're looking for Mommy Kafka, you could also do Kafka, Serval, remove Jing-Yun, and probably put Bailu back there. And now you have a Lightning team and a high probability of getting lightning damage. Now, the other team that's really good as well is you could do a Frost team, but still needs a decent amount of 5 stars. You're going to need something like March 7th with 𝙀𝙀𝙋𝑼𝑉𝑖𝑘𝑜, be super shieldy, healy, and then you could do Yang Qing. Now, a team that's actually going to be viable in 1.2 as well, if you're into Xu Sheng like me, you could do something like Xu Sheng, Luca, and Natasha. Now, this could probably be a pretty sick team, in my opinion, depending on the energy allocation on how you're going to be able to allocate those points and how many Eidolons you have on your Shusheng. But this is probably one of the best 4-star teams that you can do with Silverwolf. All right, that brings me to my final thoughts and if you should pull Silverwolf or not. And I think the answer is yes, you should, and no, you shouldn't at the same time. Yes, you should pull her because she's future-proofing your teams and you'll be able to use her and she will be like one of those characters that is probably used everywhere. But you maybe don't pull her and pull her on the 2nd or 3rd rotation in like 6 months when we actually have a well-rounded roster of 4 stars and 5 stars where you can actually build those mono comps. So I'm a little conflicted to tell people to pull when you can't really build the best mono comps right now. And that's really where she excels, is, you know, bringing in those mono comps. But if you want to pull her and put her on the bench effectively for a little while until you can actually maximize her, that's totally up to you. But I don't know if I'm going to pull her. But let me know in the comments down below if you're going to pull her or not. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully this clears some things up. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure you guys come stop by our live streams and our Twitter where we're giving away 4 monthly giveaways. And I'll see you next time. Take it easy and fist bump from me to you.